I refused to pay for a $13,000 New Year's dinner. My family declared me dead, and hours later, my sister disappeared with my mom's retirement money. Emily, the family New Year's Eve dinner is booked at Imperial Pavilion in Manhattan. On the other end of the line, her mother, Linda Thompson, sounded as breezy as if she were chatting about the weather. Got it. Sounds fine. Emily Thompson held the phone between her shoulder and cheek, fingers flying across her drawing tablet without slowing down. What do you mean, fine? One table costs $12,800. With drinks, it'll be close to 13 grand. Linda's tone carried the unmistakable finality of a decision already made. Go ahead and transfer the money to me first. Emily's hand, which had been pulling a perfectly straight line across the blueprint, froze mid-air. The cold glow of the monitor washed over her face, which showed no emotion at all. $13,000? That's ridiculous, she said flatly. Oh, come on, it's only once a year. It's about the atmosphere. Your sister Sophia said that place is upscale and trendy. Her boyfriend, Michael Brown, comes from a very well-off family. It's his first time spending New Year's with us. We can't embarrass ourselves over appearances. Linda rattled on, every word sounding like it had been rehearsed long ago. You're a senior architect now, making great money. This is pocket change for you. Hurry up and send it. The restaurant is waiting for full payment to confirm the reservation. Emily picked up her phone and walked slowly to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside was the cold, glittering nightscape of New York City, countless LED signs flashing, yet not a hint of warmth anywhere. Suddenly, she remembered how, 2 weeks earlier, her mother had used the same casual tone to inform her that from now on, her retirement pension card would be handed over to Sophia for safekeeping. The reason given was simple. Sophia had just entered the workforce. Renting an apartment, networking, buying clothes in a big city, everything costs money. As the older sister, Emily was capable and sensible, someone the family never had to worry about. So letting Sophia manage the pension was framed as helping out the younger one. At the time, Emily hadn't argued at all. Like an emotionless robot, she had simply replied calmly, "Okay, Mom." Now, hearing her mother so righteously demand that she foot the bill for this outrageously expensive New Year's dinner, Emily felt as if her chest were stuffed with a sponge soaked in icy seawater, heavy and cold. Emily, are you listening? Transfer the money already, Linda urged her on, irritation creeping into her voice. Emily took a deep breath of the cold air as if she hoped that chill might travel through the receiver to the other end. Her voice was soft, but unyielding. Mom, I'm not coming back for New Year's this year. The line went dead silent. What did you say? You're not coming back? It's New Year's. How can you say something like that? Linda's voice exploded like a firecracker. That's right. I'm not coming. Emily confirmed it calmly, her tone unchanged. And as for the dinner bill, whoever suggested it should pay for it. Why don't you just have Sophia Thompson send you the money? Emily, what kind of nonsense are you talking about? Linda completely lost control. What's wrong with asking you to pay a little? You're her sister. Supporting the family is only natural. Sophia, she's been weak since she was little. She's younger than me. She needs someone to take care of her. Emily finished the sentence for her, her calm voice carrying a trace of barely perceptible irony. I've been hearing that since I can remember. Almost 30 years now. You. Mom? Emily fixed her gaze on the faintest star in the distance, cutting off the anger about to erupt. From now on, anything involving money, please go directly to Sophia. After all, isn't your $900 monthly pension already being handed over to her to manage? With that, before even sharper insults could come through the line, she hung up. The world finally fell quiet. All she could hear was her own slightly quickened heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. She gripped the cold phone tightly, her fingertips turning pale. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment impulse. It was nearly 30 years of pent-up grievance, finally breaking through the dam of restraint. The floodgates of memory burst open, rushing in all at once. When they were kids, whenever the family rarely made braised pork, the fattiest, best pieces always went to Sophia. Emily would only get a few dry, stringy slices of lean meat. Her mother always said Sophia had a delicate constitution and needed more rich food to build her strength. When it came time to buy new clothes for the new year, Sophia always got the latest brand name outfits. Emily either wore hand-me-downs from relatives or a plain, stylish down jacket. Her mother would say Emily was the older sister and should be mature, that girls shouldn't be so competitive or vain. The year of the college entrance exams, Emily caught a severe flu and underperformed, missing her dream top-tier university by just a few points. She wanted to take a gap year and retake the exams. Linda said, "Do you think retaking a year is free? What's the point of a girl studying so much anyway? Graduating early, getting a job, and easing the family's burden, that's what matters." Look at Sophia. Her grades aren't great, but she's pretty. She can just find a rich guy in the future. In the end, Emily finished college on student loans and countless part-time jobs. Sophia, whose grades were far worse, simply said, "I don't want to suffer," and their parents spent a fortune sending her to an expensive private art school. After Emily started working, the unfairness only got worse. She lived frugally and, without fail, transferred $400 home every month. Sophia's income, meanwhile, was never enough for anything beyond designer bags and cosmetics. Every so often, she'd still reach out to the family for money. Whenever Sophia complained that she was short on cash, Linda would immediately call Emily. "Emily, your sister can't cover her credit card bill this month. Be a good sister and help her out." "Emily, Sophia wants the newest phone model. Her salary won't cover it. Send her $5,000. "Emily, all of Sophia's coworkers use luxury perfumes. She can't look cheap and lose face. Buy her a bottle. Consider it an early birthday gift." It wasn't that Emily had never tried to resist. She had tried saying no, but what followed were days of relentless phone calls and tearful accusations from Linda. "I raised you two girls with blood, sweat, and tears. Do you think that was easy? She's your only sister. If you don't pull her up, who will? Emily, how did you become so cold and selfish?" Selfish. The word was like a rusty, dull blade, sawing back and forth through Emily's heart. She just wanted to protect the money she had earned with her own hard work, to live a life that wasn't endlessly drained by others. How did that make her selfish? Gradually, she learned to respond with silence. She would still send the money, but her heart no longer held any expectations. She accepted the unfair treatment, yet stopped investing any extra emotion. Until the day her mother handed over that retirement card, the one meant to secure her later years, to Sophia without a second thought. The very last trace of Emily's longing for family affection was completely extinguished. That wasn't just a bank card. It was her mother's blatant, undisguised disregard and dismissal of her as the eldest daughter. At last, Emily understood that in this so-called family, her role would forever be just one thing: an ATM that didn't require emotional feedback, a tool that was simply expected to give. Her phone screen lit up again, vibrating non-stop. The caller ID read, "Sophia." Emily answered, but didn't speak first. "Emily, how dare you talk to Mom like that?" Sophia's sharp, furious voice shot through the phone like an arrow. "You made Mom cry at home. It's just a little over $10,000. Do you really have to make such a big deal out of it?" Emily walked over to the couch, sat down, poured herself a cup of warm water, and took a slow sip. "Yes," she said lightly. "It's a big deal." Her calm indifference nearly choked Sophia, and her anger flared even hotter. "Emily, do you have any conscience left? Did Mom and Dad raise you for nothing? What's wrong with asking you to treat everyone to one meal? Do you even know how many favors Michael and I had to call in just to get a private room at Imperial Pavilion? Oh, then that must have been hard on you." Emily's tone didn't ripple at all. "Since you've got such strong connections and so much face, then logically speaking, shouldn't the bill be on you?" "You!" Sophia sputtered, then abruptly switched tactics, pulling out her usual weapon. Her voice instantly took on a tearful quiver. "Emily, how did you become like this? Aren't we family? It's New Year's. Do you really have to make everyone look bad? Mom's already getting old. Can't you just let her be happy for once? Let her be happy?" Emily repeated the phrase, the corner of her mouth curling into a cold smile. By going along with her and handing all of her retirement money to you, by going along with her and having her come to me, her capable daughter, every time there's trouble? Sophia, ask yourself honestly, haven't I gone along with it enough all these years? That's because Mom dotes on me. Who told you to be so capable, so healthy, and never need anyone to worry about you? Sophia yelled without thinking. The moment the words left her mouth, an eerie silence fell on both ends of the line. Emily's fingers tightened around the glass until her knuckles turned white. So this was it. This was the sister she had once genuinely loved. This was the sister her mother had favored at all costs. In their eyes, her resilience, her independence, her endurance, and her sacrifices had all become the original sin of being capable and not needing care. Yes, Emily said quietly, exhaustion weighing down every syllable. I am that capable. So from now on, people like me, who are so capable, won't trouble you anymore. That family reunion dinner? You and your real family enjoy it yourselves. She deliberately emphasized the words, real family. Emily, what do you mean by that? Say it clearly. Sophia shrieked hysterically. Emily didn't give her another second to perform. She ended the call, then with a quick swipe of her finger, decisively dragged Sophia's number into the blacklist. The world returned to absolute silence once more. This time, even her heartbeat had slowed. She walked to her desk and unlocked the bottom drawer with a key. Inside were no jewels or accessories, only a thick ledger and several bank cards no one had ever seen. The ledger was densely filled with records of every transfer she had made to her family since she started working. Dates, amounts, purposes, health supplements for her mother, funeral expenses for her late father, rent for her sister, new appliances for the house. Line after line, painfully clear. Those bank cards were the savings she had quietly set aside for herself over the years. She had never told anyone about them, not even her mother. She had always treated that money as her last safety net, the only sense of security she could cling to in this cold city. She used to think that if the family ever truly hit a breaking point, this money could save them. Only now did she fully wake up to the truth. Some so-called families are nothing more than bottomless pits that can never be filled. She picked up her phone again. The screen lit up. It was a message from a group chat called One Big Happy Family. The group included her mother, her sister, and several close aunts and uncles. The first message came from Aunt Patricia. Linda, I heard this year's New Year's Eve dinner is at Imperial Pavilion. Emily is really something. Treating the whole family to such a fancy restaurant. Sophia is so lucky too, finding such a respectable boyfriend. And with Emily being so capable, Linda, you'll be enjoying the good life from now on. A string of likes and envious emojis followed. It was obvious that her mother had already rushed to show off in the family group and had defaulted to Emily paying the bill. As Emily stared at the flattering messages on the screen, she could almost see her mother's vain, smug expression and Sophia standing beside her, fanning the flames with satisfaction. Her long fingers moved swiftly across the screen as she typed a single message. Aunt Patricia, there's been a misunderstanding. This year's New Year's Eve dinner was organized by Sophia and her boyfriend Michael. They wanted to show off a bit, so naturally, they're covering the bill too. I won't be coming back to join the fun. Wishing everyone a great meal. The message landed like a bucket of cold water splashed into a pot of boiling oil. The group chat went instantly silent. A few seconds later, her phone began vibrating wildly. Not from the group, but from a flood of private messages and incoming calls. The first call came from her oldest uncle, Robert Wilson. Emily stared at the flashing name on the screen, took a deep breath, and answered. She knew the real storm was only just beginning, and she was fully prepared to face this war, one that had been nearly 30 years overdue. Hello, Uncle Robert. Her voice was calm, like a bottomless, ancient well. There was a brief pause on the other end, clearly not expecting such a cool response. Robert cleared his throat and spoke in the firm, unquestionable tone elders were used to. Emily, what's going on here? I just saw your message in the group. You said you're not coming back for New Year's dinner, and that the money should come from your sister? What kind of talk is that? Emily walked to the window, watching the sparse stream of cars heading home on the street below. Her voice didn't waver. Uncle Robert, I didn't say anything wrong. The dinner was organized by Sophia and her boyfriend. They chose the restaurant, so naturally they should pay. I'm swamped with projects this year, so I won't be going back. Too busy with work? Robert raised his voice. No matter how busy you are, is anything more important than coming home for New Year's? Emily, I'm not scolding you, but your mom raised the two of you on her own. Do you have any idea how much she sacrificed? Now you've made it, you earn good money, but you can't forget where you came from. It's just a dinner costing a little over $10,000. Arguing over this with your mom and sister, how does that look to outsiders? The same old speech. Emily could practically recite the rest of his moral pressure from memory. She suddenly let out a soft laugh. It was light, but carried a bone-chilling coldness through the phone. Uncle Robert, I'm not arguing over the price of a dinner, Emily said slowly and clearly. What I'm questioning is why, all these years, I've been the only one expected to give unconditionally, while Sophia gets to enjoy everything without guilt. My mom's monthly pension, over $900, has already been completely handed over to Sophia. Did you know that? Robert was visibly thrown off. His tone faltered. Your mom's money, who she lets manage, it is her choice. Sophia is still young. Expenses are high out there. It's not unreasonable for your mom to help her a little. You're the older sister. You should act like one and be more accommodating. Accommodating? Emily repeated the word, the dull ache in her chest surging again. Haven't I accommodated enough? My college tuition came from student loans and my own part-time jobs. Sophia went to a private art school that cost over $40,000 a year, and the family didn't blink an eye. After I started working, I sent money home every single month. Sophia's been working for 2 years. Not only has she never given the family a cent, she's taken all of Mom's pension. And now, just to show off in front of her boyfriend, she books a New Year's dinner costing over $10,000, and I'm expected to pay for it. Uncle Robert, tell me honestly, is that reasonable? Well, Robert was left speechless. Clearly, he hadn't known these tangled details, or simply didn't want to. You're all family. Why talk about what's reasonable or not? Your mom only has you 2 daughters. Won't everything be yours eventually anyway? Making things this tense just puts her in a difficult position. Listen to your uncle. Send the money to your mom, come home for New Year's, and don't let her be upset during the holidays. Upset? Emily's eyes stung, but she forced the moisture back. Uncle Robert, you're only thinking about whether my mom will be upset. Have you ever thought about how many times I've been hurt over the years? Without waiting for him to respond, she continued, I'm not sending the money, and I'm not coming back for dinner. If that makes me immature or unfilial, then I'll take that label. Uncle Robert, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up. I still have design drafts to finish. With that, she ended the call. This time, there wasn't a shred of hesitation in her heart. She knew this was only the beginning. After her oldest uncle, there would be her second aunt, her younger uncle, maybe even distant relatives she barely knew, all calling one after another under her mother's tearful complaints to give her their so-called guidance. She walked to her desk and picked up the ledger of transfers, flipping through it page by page. Those cold numbers were no longer just records. They were her emotions and dignity, sliced away bit by bit over the years. She took out her phone, opened the camera, and carefully photographed the most representative transfer records in the ledger, page after page. Then she turned on her computer and created a new Excel spreadsheet. Date, amount, recipient, brief purpose. She entered each line neatly, making everything unmistakably clear. As she did all this, her calm was almost frightening. She wasn't preparing weapons for an attack. She was simply organizing objective facts. She wanted those people who loved to stand on moral high ground and point fingers to see clearly what Emily had truly given to this family. Sure enough, her phone started ringing again, one call after another. Her second aunt called, her central message the same old tune. Emily, the older one should give in to the younger. That's how it's always been. Your mom being biased isn't right, but you're a sensible kid. Don't lower yourself to her level. It's New Year's. Don't make a scene. Her younger uncle sent a voice message on WhatsApp. Far more aggressive. Emily, you've really grown wings now, haven't you? You dare talk back to your mom? Send the money right now. Otherwise, don't bother calling me your uncle again. Even a distant aunt by marriage, someone she barely interacted with, sent a long message earnestly urging her to prioritize harmony. Emily responded with a uniform cold approach. To relatives she was somewhat close to, she replied once, "Thank you for your concern. I know what I'm doing." Then she stopped responding. To distant relatives or those with especially harsh tones, she simply left them on read, or replied briefly with, "Okay" or "Got it." She no longer wanted to explain, nor did she feel like arguing. Because she knew very well that in these relatives' ingrained beliefs, children defying parents was unforgivable, and an older sister not yielding to a younger one was selfish. Reasoning with them was like playing music to a cow, nothing but a waste of her energy. Her silence and emotional distance only made some relatives hit a wall, and gradually they stopped bothering her. But her mother, Linda, and her sister, Sophia, were clearly not about to let this go. The group chat called One Big Happy Family became their main battlefield. Sophia sent a 60-second voice message to the group, her voice thick with sobs, sounding as if the whole world had wronged her. "Everyone, aunts and uncles, please don't blame my sister. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have suggested such an expensive dinner. I shouldn't have gotten a boyfriend. I shouldn't have spent mom's money. It's all my fault for making my sister angry. Now she won't even come home for New Year's. She must hate me so much." Linda immediately followed up with an equally indignant voice message. "Sophia, don't cry. This isn't your fault. It's Emily. She thinks she's all that now, some senior architect, and doesn't care about her family anymore. I raised her for nothing." Making a huge deal out of something so small, I think she just doesn't want to acknowledge me as her mom anymore. Aunt Patricia quickly stepped in to smooth things over. "Oh, sweetheart Sophia, don't cry. Listening to you breaks my heart." Emily too, honestly, it's such a small thing. "Linda, calm down a bit. Emily's probably just under a lot of work pressure and said some things out of anger." Her younger uncle chimed in as well. "Emily, look at how upset you've made your mom and sister. Come out and apologize to them right now and we'll put this behind us." Emily silently watched the messages in the group, her finger gliding lightly over the cold screen. She watched her sister's calculated show of retreating to advance. She watched her mother's blind, hysterical accusations. She watched her relatives' muddy, fence-sitting, mediation, and the last trace of her ridiculous hesitation finally vanished without a trace. She opened the input box and typed slowly, word by word. "Sophia, you don't need to cry, and you don't need to take all the blame onto yourself. I don't hate you. I'm just exhausted by this endless unfairness. Linda Mom, whether I acknowledge you or not is not something proven by a $13,000 dinner. You know better than anyone that over the years, what I've done for you and for this family goes far beyond that amount. As for the New Year's Eve dinner, when I say I'm not coming back, I mean it. And the money, whoever agreed to pay it should take responsibility themselves. And starting next month, the $400 I've been sending home every month will be officially suspended. Since your retirement income is already enough to support you and has been fully handed over to Sophia to manage, I don't see a reason to keep taking on this extra burden. Wishing everyone a happy New Year's Eve." The moment the message was sent, it was like dumping a bucket of cold water into a pot of boiling oil. The group exploded. "Emily, are you out of your mind? Are you trying to cut ties with me as mother and daughter?" Linda's voice message was so shrill it nearly pierced the eardrums. "Emily, how can you treat Mom like this? Mom really loved you for nothing." Sophia's sobbing grew heavier, as if she'd suffered a grave injustice. "Emily, take that message back right now. What kind of behavior is this?" That was Aunt Patricia. "Emily, you're really rebelling now, aren't you?" That was her younger uncle. Emily didn't bother reading the chaos in the group chat. She simply long pressed the group icon and, expressionless, selected Leave Group. Clean, efficient. Final. The world seemed to grow much quieter in that instant. She put down her phone, went to the kitchen, and made herself a simple bowl of tomato and egg noodles. As the steaming noodles slid into her stomach, the warmth in her body seemed to harden her once cold heart instead of softening it. She was no longer the Emily who could only passively accept blame and endless demands. She had chosen to strike back, no matter if that meant being branded unfilial or cold-blooded. New Year's Eve arrived right on schedule. Outside the window, fireworks bloomed brilliantly across the night sky, thunderous bursts announcing the end of the old year and the arrival of the new. Inside Emily's apartment, there was only her. She cooked 2 small dishes she liked, turned on the TV to let the festive holiday program fill the room with noise, and then took out a thick professional textbook, quietly flipping through its pages. No complaints from her mother, no showing off from her sister, and no suffocating sense of being endlessly drained. This extreme solitude brought her an unprecedented sense of ease and calm. Her phone rang several times during the evening, all from unfamiliar local numbers. Emily guessed it was probably her mother or sister refusing to give up and calling from other people's phones. She ignored every single one. She knew that the moment she answered, it would trigger another round of crying, accusations, and moral pressure. This year, she just wanted to spend New Year's Eve peacefully for herself. A little after 10 please. Her phone rang again. This time, it was a number from a neighboring city, one that looked vaguely familiar. Emily thought for a moment and remembered. It was Aunt Anderson, a longtime neighbor back home who had watched her grow up and was on good terms with her mother. Aunt Anderson had always been upright and never liked meddling in other people's family matters. After a brief hesitation, Emily answered the call. "Happy New Year, Aunt Anderson." Emily greeted her politely. "Happy New Year, Emily?" Aunt Anderson's voice sounded worried, but there was no hint of accusation. "Have you had your New Year's Eve dinner yet?" "Yes, Auntie, I have," Emily replied. There was a short silence on the other end before Aunt Anderson let out a soft sigh. "Emily, your mom came over to my place this afternoon. She cried quite a bit." Emily didn't speak. She just listened. "She said you weren't answering her calls, that you even left the family group chat, and that you're cutting off the money starting next month." Aunt Anderson paused, her tone complicated. "She said her heart was truly broken." Aunt Anderson hesitated, then continued gently. "Emily, I'm not calling to persuade you. Every family has its own struggles. Your mom's favoritism, we neighbors have noticed it over the years. I just wanted to ask you, have you really made up your mind?" Emily tightened her grip on the phone. Her voice was soft, yet unwavering. "Aunt Anderson, this isn't a moment of impulse. I'm just too tired. I don't want to keep being the one who's always sacrificed and ignored." "I understand," Aunt Anderson sighed again. "When your mom was crying, she did say something honest. She said she knows she's treated you unfairly all these years, but Sophia worries her so much. She's always afraid Sophia will suffer out there, so she tries to protect her more. She just didn't expect that." Aunt Anderson didn't finish the sentence, but Emily already understood. She hadn't expected that in the end, she would push away the eldest daughter, the one who was the most sensible, the least troublesome, completely. "Thank you for telling me this, Aunt Anderson," Emily said. A trace of bitterness passed through her heart, but numbness outweighed it. "But if my mom truly felt guilty, she wouldn't just cry to you. She would have called me directly, if only to ask what I ate for New Year's Eve. But she didn't." What Emily had wanted was never material compensation. All she'd ever wanted was a minimum level of respect and fairness. There was a long silence on the other end of the line before Aunt Anderson finally said, "You're a good kid. As long as you're clear in your own heart, that's enough. Live in whatever way brings you peace. I just hope you won't regret it." "I won't regret it, Aunt Anderson," Emily replied firmly. After hanging up, Emily's emotions were complicated. That tiny trace of guilt her mother had shown to an outsider was like a pebble tossed into her emotional lake. It rippled briefly, then quickly settled again. Compared to nearly 30 years of grievances she had endured, that faint, weightless guilt was far too small to matter, and she had a strong intuition. Something else must have happened on her mother's and sister's side. Otherwise, with her mother's prideful personality, She would never have shown even a hint of remorse in front of a neighbor, especially when Aunt Anderson mentioned that line, "Sophia worries her too much." What had happened to Sophia? That Sophia who was holding all of her mother's retirement money, who had found a well-off boyfriend, who was supposed to be enjoying a grand New Year's Eve dinner at a luxury restaurant, what could possibly be so worrying about her? Emily walked to her computer and, almost unconsciously, opened a well-known local community forum along with several social media platforms she frequented. She typed in keywords like Imperial Pavilion, New Year's Eve dinner, and reservation dispute, searching aimlessly. She didn't even know what she was looking for, only that a vague premonition was driving her. Suddenly, a post published just over an hour ago on a popular local lifestyle forum caught her eye. The title read, "Live Rant, Horrible Older Sister, Promised to treat the whole family to an outrageously expensive New Year's Eve dinner, then disappeared at the last minute, turned off her phone, and left our entire family standing in the hotel lobby, humiliated." The tone of the post was filled with overwhelming anger and unspeakable grievance. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She moved the mouse and clicked into the post. The content described in striking detail what the poster's family had experienced that night. An older sister with great financial means had proactively offered to treat the whole family to an expensive New Year's Eve dinner at Imperial Pavilion. Everyone was thrilled and arrived on time, dressed up. But once they got to the hotel, they discovered the sister never showed up, hadn't paid the deposit, the private room had been canceled, and her phone was unreachable. The entire family stood around awkwardly in the hotel's lavish lobby, completely humiliated. In the end, they had no choice but to slink home separately, and the long-anticipated reunion dinner was ruined. The poster angrily condemned the sister as selfish and vain, accusing her of making the entire family lose face in front of relatives and friends. Although the entire post used aliases, Emily was almost 100% certain. The poster was Sophia's boyfriend, Michael, and the so-called horrible older sister was Sophia herself. The restaurant was Imperial Pavilion. The timing matched perfectly. Every detail lined up. Sophia had stood up the entire family. Even her mother, Linda, and all those relatives had been left waiting at the hotel. Then where had Sophia gone? And what about her well-off boyfriend? Emily immediately tried calling Sophia's phone. As expected, all she heard was the cold automated message announcing that the phone was powered off. She immediately dialed her mother Linda's number. The phone rang for a long, long time. Just when Emily thought no one would answer, the call was finally picked up. On the other end came Linda's voice, thick with a heavy nasal tone, exhausted and hoarse. The background noise was no longer the bustle of a hotel, but the deathly silence of home. "Hello." Just that single word carried utter despair, as if all her strength had been drained. "Mom." Emily tried to keep her voice steady and calm. "I heard from Aunt Anderson that you weren't feeling well. How was the New Year's Eve dinner?" Linda fell into sudden silence. A few seconds later, Emily clearly heard her mother's restrained, broken sobs coming through the receiver in uneven bursts. Those sobs were filled with humiliation, shame, and a deep, unspeakable terror. "Emily, your sister is gone." Linda's crying came through the phone with a sense of total collapse, completely different from the domineering woman who had angrily accused Emily in the family group chat just hours earlier. Emily tightened her grip on the phone. Her heart skipped, yet strangely she wasn't surprised. That ominous feeling, "so this is how it ends," had finally come true. She took a deep breath and kept her tone deliberately calm. "Gone? What do you mean?" "Mom, don't cry yet. Take your time. Tell me exactly what happened." Linda was sobbing so hard she could barely catch her breath, her words tumbling out chaotically. We all arrived at UPenn Pavilion. Waited almost an hour. Sophia never showed up. Her phone was off. Her boyfriend Michael couldn't reach him either. The hotel said the private room was never paid for. It had already been canceled. Your eldest uncle, your third aunt, everyone was there. My face, my dignity, I lost everything. Emily could almost picture the scene. A family dressed up and excited, arriving at the most luxurious restaurant in the city for their New Year's Eve dinner, only to be told the reservation didn't exist. Left standing helplessly in the glittering hotel lobby, under the gazes of relatives, some shocked, some sympathetic, some quietly amused, before slinking away in utter humiliation. For Linda, who valued face above all else, it was nothing short of a public execution. Emily, what do we do now? Do you think something happened to Sophia? Why has her phone been off this whole time? Panic poured out of Linda's voice, completely undisguised. Emily walked over to the sofa and sat down, asking with near-cold rationality, "Mom, don't panic yet. Has Sophia shown any unusual behavior recently? How much do you really know about her boyfriend, Michael? What exactly does he do for work? Unusual?" Linda stopped crying and tried to recall. "No, nothing unusual. She was just especially happy a few days ago," said Michael. Took her into some overseas cryptocurrency investment. Said they made a lot of money, very high returns. She even told me she'd buy a house after the new year, my pension card. Oh, right. She told me she'd help manage my finances and transferred all the money from my card. Her voice grew smaller and smaller, trembling violently by the end as if she couldn't believe her own words. Emily's heart sank completely. High return investment. Cryptocurrency. All the money transferred. Phone shut off. Disappeared. All the keywords lined up perfectly, pointing to one extremely grim possibility. "Mom," Emily's voice turned sharp and serious. "Sophia transferred all the money from your pension card? When did this happen? How much in total?" Just 3 days ago," Linda's voice cracked again. "There was over 50,000 saved from these past years, plus this month's pension, almost 60,000. Sophia said it would be more convenient for her to operate it, said it was an internal channel, that 1 month would double it. I was stupid. I believed her. 60,000 yuan. For Linda, whose pension wasn't generous, that was nearly her entire retirement savings, and that didn't even include the monthly pension she had already handed over to Sophia for safekeeping, whatever money Sophia herself might have put in, or the so-called boyfriend. Emily was almost certain now. Sophia had fallen into a classic pig-butchering scam. She was likely wiped out financially or even in debt, which explained why she had shut off her phone and disappeared, abandoning even the New Year's Eve dinner she herself had arranged. A storm of emotions surged through Emily. Anger at her mother's foolishness and favoritism. A cold, bitter sense of irony at Sophia reaping what she sowed. But more than anything, a bone-deep sadness. This was the daughter her mother had favored, protected, and poured everything into. When it truly mattered, that beloved daughter took her mother's last lifeline of money and vanished, leaving behind a disaster. "Emily," Linda's voice trembled helplessly. "Do you think Sophia, was she scammed? She's just a girl. What if she does something stupid?" At last, she remembered the daughter she had always treated like an ATM. Emily was silent for a few seconds. She could have sneered, could have said, "I warned you. This is your own doing." It would have felt satisfying, but she didn't. Instead, she said calmly, "Mom, panicking won't help now. Calling the police? With a financial scam and such a short time missing, they probably won't even file a case yet. The priority is confirming Sophia's personal safety." She paused, then continued methodically. "Think carefully. Does Sophia have any other friends we can contact? Did she ever mention Michael's full name or company? Any detail could help." Linda, steadied by Emily's composure, forced herself to think. "Friends. She has a close girlfriend named Sarah. I think she works at a cosmetics counter in a shopping mall. The boyfriend, just Michael, said he worked in internet finance. I don't know which company." The information was painfully scarce. Emily noted the two names, Sarah and Michael. "Mom, tell me which mall Sarah works at. Also, do you know the passwords to Sophia's social accounts? Or can you try contacting Sarah directly?" "Sarah, I think it's the cosmetics counter on the first floor of Global Harbor Mall. I don't know Sophia's passwords. I'll check my phone to see if I saved Sarah's number." Linda was completely at a loss now, instinctively following Emily's instructions. "Good," Emily said. "Find Sarah's contact info and ask if she's seen Sophia recently or knows more about Michael. I'll look into things on my end, too. If you hear anything, call me immediately." Then she added, "Mom, are you okay being alone at home? Do you want me to ask eldest uncle or third aunt to stay with you?" "No, no need," Linda refused quickly. After tonight's humiliation, she didn't want to see any relatives. "I'm fine. Emily, you have to find Sophia." Even now, her greatest concern was still the younger daughter who had taken the money and disappeared. The thin sliver of sympathy Emily had felt cooled instantly. "I'll do my best," she said flatly. "Get some rest. I'll contact you if there's any news." She hung up. Emily sat on the sofa for a long time without moving. Outside the window, fireworks continued to bloom tirelessly, their flashes casting shifting light and shadow across the living room. She never could have imagined that the first New Year's Eve after cutting ties would end in such an absurd way. A frantic plea for help from her mother. A sister suspected of being caught in a scam and disappearing with the money. This should have been the kind of karmic spectacle that felt deeply satisfying. Yet at this moment, Emily felt no sense of triumph at all, only a heavy exhaustion and a bitter sense of irony. She opened her contacts and found a name she hadn't spoken to in years, Jennifer, her best friend from high school. Jennifer had gone on to attend the police academy and now worked at a local police station back in their hometown. Though only in an administrative role, she had far more access to internal information than an ordinary civilian. Emily hesitated for a moment, then dialed. "Hello? Emily? Oh my God, it's you? What brings this busy woman to call me on New Year's Eve?" Jennifer's bright, cheerful voice came through the line, full of surprise. "Happy New Year, Jennifer. Sorry to bother you so late. There's something urgent I need to ask you about." Emily tried to keep her voice steady. "Don't be polite with me. What's going on?" Emily briefly explained Sophia's disappearance and the suspected online investment scam, deliberately glossing over most of the family conflicts. She focused on what she needed to know from an official standpoint, what the fastest course of action would be, and whether it was possible to quickly check if the man called Michael had any criminal record based on his name. Jennifer's tone immediately turned serious. "Emily, based on what you're describing, filing a missing person report alone might be difficult for now. Your sister is an adult, and she voluntarily shut off her phone. However, if there's a confirmed fraud element and the amount is significant, we can at least create an early warning record and keep an eye out. Send me via WeChat everything you have, your sister's name, ID number if you know it, physical description, last known location and time, and the amount of money involved. Also include whatever you know about that boyfriend. I'll check the system as soon as I get to work tomorrow." "That's amazing, Jennifer. Thank you, truly." Emily felt genuine relief. "Don't mention it." "But Emily," Jennifer paused, concern creeping into her voice. "You don't sound quite right. Are you okay?" And your sister, sigh. "Just be careful yourself." "I'm fine. Don't worry." A faint warmth passed through Emily's chest. After hanging up with Jennifer, Emily continued searching online using keywords like Michael, internet finance, and cryptocurrency investment across local forums and business information databases. The results were messy and chaotic, yielding nothing of real value. Like a detached investigator, she began methodically untangling the mess, despite the fact that the core of it all was the sister who had brought her endless trouble her entire life. Time ticked by minute, until it was nearly midnight. Cheers for the New Year's countdown rang out from the television. Emily's phone rang again. It was Linda. "Emily, I found Sarah's number." She picked up. Linda's voice carried a fragile hope, as if clinging to a lifeline. "Sarah said she did see Sophia a few days ago. Sophia was in a good mood back then, saying she'd made money investing with Michael, but the day before New Year's Eve, Sophia suddenly went to her crying, saying the money she invested might all be gone, and that she couldn't reach Michael anymore. Sarah urged her to tell you, but Sophia refused, said she was too ashamed to face anyone. After that, Sarah couldn't contact her either." So that was it. An investment scam. A broken capital chain. The operator disappearing. Sophia hadn't just taken their mother's retirement money, she had likely lost all her own savings as well. With no way out, she chose the most cowardly option, vanishing entirely, even abandoning the New Year's Eve dinner she herself had orchestrated. Sarah also said, Linda's voice began trembling again, that Michael doesn't seem to be any kind of legitimate finance professional. Apparently he already had a bad reputation before. Emily, what should we do now? Do you think Sophia might do something foolish? Mom, Emily cut her off, her tone calm to the point of cruelty. The most important thing right now is finding Sophia and making sure she's physically safe. As for the money, I suggest you prepare for the worst. It's very unlikely to be recovered. A long silence followed. Only the sound of suppressed sobbing remained. Linda seemed finally forced to face a brutal reality. The daughter she had always been proud of, the one she had favored and poured everything into, hadn't brought her honor or security, only drained her completely and left her in humiliation and danger. And the daughter she had long ignored, blamed, and treated like an ATM was now being called in the middle of New Year's Eve, calmly analyzing the situation and searching for solutions. The contrast was blindingly, painfully ironic. Emily, Linda's voice was finally thick with remorse and shame. Mom is sorry. At last, she said it. Emily held the phone, listening to her mother's choked apology. Outside the window, the thunderous toll of the New Year bells blended with a sky full of dazzling fireworks. Her face showed no expression. She wasn't moved by the belated apology, nor did she offer the word forgiveness. Some wounds, once inflicted, cannot be erased by a weightless, "I'm sorry." Some disappointments, once accumulated, sink deep into the bones, irreversible. Mom, it's too late to say these things now, Emily replied calmly. Get some rest. I'll let you know if there's further news. Happy New Year. She hung up again. This time she knew with absolute clarity. From this night onward, her relationship with her mother, and with that family, had fundamentally changed. She was no longer the Emily who could be endlessly taken from, endlessly sacrificed, and her mother would eventually pay a heavy price for decades of favoritism. Emily turned off the noisy television and walked quietly to the window. Under the New Year's night sky, the city was still brightly lit, glowing as if it were daytime. Her heart was just like that night, deep, steady, and resolute. She knew that once Sophia was found, even more difficult problems would follow. But this time, she would not soften. She would not take a single step back. The first day of the new year arrived under a strange, oppressive heaviness. Emily barely slept at all, not out of concern for Sophia, but because her mind was racing, constantly mapping out possibilities and response plans. At the first hint of dawn, she got up, made herself a cup of strong black coffee, and opened her laptop. She began by compiling an exceptionally clear document. Sophia's basic personal information. Known boyfriend information. Michael, claiming to work in internet finance, physical details unknown. Incident summary. Under the pretext of high-return cryptocurrency investment, Sophia withdrew over 60,000 yuan from her mother Linda's pension funds and went missing on New Year's Eve. Her boyfriend is also unreachable. Key contact. Close friend Sarah. Cosmetic sales, possibly working at Global Harbor Mall. She sent the document to her friend Jennifer via WeChat. Jennifer, this is everything we know so far. Thank you for your help. Please let me know immediately if there's any progress. Jennifer replied almost instantly. Got it. I'll notify you the moment there's any update. Take care of yourself. Don't panic. After exhausting the official channels, Emily began thinking about other possible breakthroughs. Sophia might be spoiled and selfish, but she wasn't someone with deep schemes or long-term planning. After disappearing, where was she most likely to hide? Would she go back to the apartment she was renting? Emily knew the general address of Sophia's apartment complex. Her mother had mentioned it casually before, but not the exact unit number. She decided to go there herself and take a chance. Before heading out, she sent Linda a message. Mom, I'm going out to look for her. Stay home and wait for news. If Sophia contacts you in any way, tell me immediately. Also, please send me the exact rental address and the landlord's contact info if you have it. Linda replied almost at once, sending not only the detailed address but also the landlord's phone number. It was obvious she hadn't slept at all and had been clutching her phone the entire night. Emily, thank you. Please be careful. If you hear anything, tell Mom right away. The message was filled with an unprecedented level of dependence and ingratiation, nothing like the commanding tone she'd used just days earlier. Emily didn't reply. She put her phone away, wrapped her coat tightly around herself, and headed out. The streets on the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year were eerily quiet. The air still carried the faint smell of gunpowder from the fireworks the night before. Emily took a taxi to Sophia's apartment complex. It was a fairly tidy, mid-range residential area. She found the correct building, but was stopped at the entrance. Access required a keycard or a call from a resident. She tried calling Sophia again. The same cold, automated message. The phone you're calling is powered off. With no other option, Emily steeled herself and called the landlord. Hello? Who is this? A middle-aged woman answered, her voice thick with sleep. Hello, Auntie. I'm Emily, Sophia's older sister, your tenant. I'm really sorry to bother you so early. My sister's been unreachable since last night, and the family is very worried. I came to see if she's at home, but I can't get into the building. Would you be able to help me open the door, or maybe try calling her? At the mention of Sophia's name, the landlord seemed to wake up halfway. Sophia? She shouldn't be home. Yesterday afternoon, she came to me in a big rush, said there was an emergency at home and that she wanted to terminate the lease early. She already moved almost all her things out and told me to come today to inspect the place and collect the keys. Emily's heart sank hard. Early termination? Moved out? This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. She's moving out? Did she say where she was going? Emily asked urgently. No, she didn't say. Just said it was urgent. She didn't even want the deposit back and told me to rent the place out as soon as possible. She looked terrible, pale and frantic. Hey, nothing serious happened in your family, did it? The landlord's curiosity was obvious. It's nothing serious. Just can't reach her. Thank you. Emily hung up. At this point, the picture was clear. Sophia hadn't disappeared on a whim. She'd prepared for it. That only further confirmed Emily's suspicion that she'd been dragged into a scam and possibly run away with debt. The trail seemed to end there. Standing in the cold morning wind, Emily felt a wave of helplessness. Just as she was about to leave, her gaze swept past a 24-hour convenience store near the complex entrance. On impulse, she walked in and described Sophia's appearance to the cashier, asking if they'd seen her last night or early this morning. The young cashier tilted their head, thinking hard. Maybe, I think I remember someone like that. Around 11 or midnight last night, a really pretty woman came in and bought a big bundle of instant noodles and bottled water. Her face was deathly pale, eyes red like she'd been crying hard. She was wearing a beige long down coat and dragging a big suitcase. Not sure if that's the person you're talking about, though. A suitcase. Emily's spirits lifted instantly. That meant Sophia had likely returned last night, but left again after grabbing her luggage. She couldn't have gone far, or maybe she still hadn't found a proper place to hide. Emily thanked the cashier and immediately began a methodical search of the surrounding area, focusing on places that offered short-term shelter, small guest houses, internet cafes, even 24-hour fast food restaurants. Just as she reached a street corner not far from the complex, her phone rang sharply. It was Jennifer. Emily, we've got a lead. Jennifer's voice was charged with excitement. Our system just logged a hotel registration around 4 a.m. under Sophia's ID. She checked into a small place called ULI Guest House, not far from her apartment. She booked an hourly room 302. Emily's heart slammed against her ribs. ULI Guest House. I know that place. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm heading there right now. Be careful. Don't rush in alone. If you need backup, I can send a patrol officer nearby. Jennifer warned. I know. I'll assess the situation first. Emily hung up and immediately ran toward ULI Guest House. It was an old-looking family-run motel. Emily rushed into the lobby, where a middle-aged man at the front desk was yawning. Hello, I'm looking for Sophia in room 302. I'm her sister. There's an emergency at home, Emily said bluntly. Urgency leaving no room for doubt. The man eyed her suspiciously from head to toe. Perhaps Emily didn't look like trouble, or perhaps he didn't want any hassle on New Year's Day. he muttered. ID registration, waved his hand, and let her go upstairs. Emily took the stairs 2 at a time, reached the 3rd floor, and found room 302. She took a deep breath and knocked firmly. No response. She knocked harder, lowering her voice as she called out, "Sophia, open the door! I know you're inside. It's Emily." There was a rustling sound inside, something clattering to the floor, but still no one opened the door. Emily lost her patience completely. Her voice turned sharp and stern. "Sophia, if you don't open the door right now, I'm calling the landlord and the police. Mom is going out of her mind. Do you have any idea?" That finally hit the mark. The lock clicked softly. The door opened a narrow crack. Sophia's face appeared in the gap, pale, haggard, streaked with dried tears. Her eyes were swollen like walnuts. She wore wrinkled loungewear, and a stench of instant noodles mixed with despair seeped out of the room. "Sis," Sophia's voice was hoarse and weak, filled with fear and shame. Emily shoved the door open and strode inside. The room was tiny, just a bed, a nightstand, and a suitcase on the floor that had clearly been rummaged through. Several empty instant noodle cups were scattered nearby. What happened? Where's Michael? And Mom's money? Emily shut the door behind her. No small talk, no warmth. Her tone was cold and surgical. Sophia collapsed onto the icy floor and broke down completely. "It's gone, all of it. Michael, that liar, he ran off with all our money. I can't reach him anymore. I even borrowed tens of thousands online under my own name. Sis, I don't dare go home. I don't dare face Mom." Through sobs, she haltingly told the whole story. Michael wasn't some rising star in internet finance at all. He was a professional scammer, living off deception. He used fake high-return investment schemes as bait, draining Sophia of the savings she'd accumulated over years of work, as well as the 60,000 yuan she'd taken from Linda's pension. Worse still, he persuaded Sophia to take out loans on multiple shady online lending platforms using her own identity, claiming it was for short-term cash flow and promising to split the profits. Now the platforms were aggressively demanding repayment, and Michael had vanished without a trace. He said he'd take me to buy a house after the new year. He said he'd introduce me to his parents. It was all lies. Sophia sobbed uncontrollably. "Sis, what am I supposed to do now? Those debt collection calls are terrifying. They said if I don't pay up, they'll come to my company, to our home, and make a scene." Emily looked at the woman in front of her, disheveled, pitiful, and stupid beyond redemption. She felt not a trace of sympathy, only a cold, unsurprised fury. For a bit of ridiculous vanity and her greed for an easy life, Sophia had trusted a man of unknown background without hesitation. She hadn't just ruined herself. She had dragged their mother down with her into an abyss with no bottom. "So you took Mom's last bit of retirement money and went into hiding?" Emily's voice was sharp as ice, every word piercing straight into Sophia's heart. "You even stood up the New Year's Eve dinner you planned yourself, leaving Mom to lose face in front of all the relatives?" Sophia lowered her head in shame, unable to meet Emily's eyes, sobbing helplessly without saying a word. Expressionless, Emily took out her phone, dialed Linda's number, and put it on speaker. "Mom, Sophia's been found." "She's been found?" Linda's voice instantly filled with anxious concern. "Where is she? Is she okay? Is she hurt?" "She's fine. Perfectly fine," Emily said coldly. "She's in a small hotel near the apartment she rented. Now let her explain it to you herself." Emily held the phone out to Sophia. Sophia stared at it as if it were a red-hot branding iron, shaking her head frantically, her face full of terror and pleading. "Talk." Emily barked a single word. Sophia trembled, then took the phone with shaking hands, choking back sobs. "Mom, I'm sorry. The money, it was all taken by Michael, that scammer, and I owe a lot of debt too." There was silence on the other end of the line. A few seconds later came Linda's sharp, disbelieving cry through tears. "What? Taken? All 60,000? Not a cent left? And you're in debt? Sophia! What do you expect me to say to you?" In her voice were shock and heartbreak, but more than that, the despair of a belief completely shattered. The daughter she had always favored and relied on had dealt her a fatal blow. Mom, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Sophia begged through sobs. Save me. Help me pay it back. If you don't, they'll beat me to death. How am I supposed to help you pay it back? Linda cried, her voice filled with helpless rage. My retirement money is gone. You took it all. I don't have a single cent left. Emily watched coldly from the side. This mother-daughter fallout should have felt satisfying, but all she felt was profound sadness. She took back the phone and turned off the speaker. Mom, you know the situation now, Emily said calmly without a ripple of emotion. I've found her. She's safe for the moment. What happens next is between you and Sophia. She paused briefly. I'll send you the hotel address. Whether you come and how you deal with it after you arrive, that's your decision. Ignoring Linda's frantic calls from the other end, Emily hung up and immediately sent the address. She looked at Sophia, slumped on the floor and utterly lost, and said slowly, word by word, Sophia, you're an adult. You need to take responsibility for your stupidity and greed. Mom's retirement money and the debts you owe, those are problems you created yourself. No one in this world is obligated to clean up your mess forever. Sophia jerked her head up, staring at Emily through tear-filled eyes. For the first time, real fear and confusion showed on her face. It was as if only now she truly realized that the sister she had always taken from and looked down on, this time, was truly not going to reach out and save her anymore. Emily turned away and walked to the window, looking down at the street below as it slowly woke up. What happened next would depend on Linda's choice. Would she continue to shield her useless younger daughter without limits, scraping together money to repay the debts and shifting the burden back onto Emily once again? Or would she finally face reality and let Sophia bear the consequences she deserved? Emily knew that no matter what her mother chose, she was ready. Her boundary was clear and unshakable. She would not pay a single cent for Sophia's stupidity or debts again, and she would fiercely defend the line she had just drawn. This family storm, triggered by a single New Year's Eve dinner, was far from over. But from this moment on, the initiative in this game was firmly in her hands. Emily stood by the hotel window, her back to Sophia, who sat collapsed on the floor, crying softly. Outside, the street was growing lively. It was the first day of the Lunar New Year. People were visiting relatives, faces bright with festive joy, a stark contrast to this cramped room, filled with the smell of instant noodles and despair. She didn't comfort Sophia. She didn't say another word of accusation. Sometimes, silence is the most powerful weapon. About 40 minutes later, hurried footsteps sounded outside the room, followed by urgent pounding on the door and Linda's hoarse, tearful voice. Sophia! Sophia! Open the door! It's Mom. Sophia looked up like a startled rabbit, turning to Emily with eyes full of pleading and dependence. Emily walked over, still expressionless, and opened the door. Linda stood there with disheveled hair and swollen, reddened eyes. Overnight, she seemed to have aged more than 10 years. She wore only a thin, old cotton jacket, clearly having rushed over without even changing into something proper. The moment she saw Sophia, she rushed in like a frantic lioness and wrapped her tightly in her arms. Sophia! My baby! Linda wailed loudly, beating Sophia's back as she cried. How could you be so stupid? How could you be this foolish? That was Mom's life savings. My retirement money. How could you give it all to that damned scammer? Sophia clung to her mother, crying even harder, as if she were the one who had suffered the greatest injustice. Mom, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I'm so scared. I'm really scared. Emily watched the dramatic scene of mother and daughter sobbing together with cold detachment. Not a single ripple stirred in her heart. She even found it ironic. If crying and apologizing were enough to erase massive mistakes, then the cost of wrongdoing in this world was far too low. After crying for a while, Linda seemed to remember Emily was still there. She loosened her grip on Sophia, wiped her tears roughly with her sleeve, and looked at Emily with an extremely complicated expression. Her lips trembled as she spoke. Emily, this time it was really thanks to you. If it weren't for you. As long as she's been found, that's enough. Emily interrupted flatly, as if discussing the weather. Since you're here, I'll leave this to you. I have things to do. I'm leaving. She didn't want to stay another second, to watch this display of maternal devotion, or to be dragged into the inevitable mess that would follow. Sis, don't go. Sophia suddenly screamed, lunging forward to grab Emily's arm, but Emily calmly sidestepped. Emily, you can't leave. Linda panicked, rushing to block the doorway. Look at Sophia's state. She still owes tens of thousands outside. Those collection calls keep coming. They're vicious. You're experienced. You're smart. You have to help us think of a solution. Of course, it had finally come. Emily sneered inwardly. Finding the troublemaking Sophia was only the first step. The next, naturally, was to have her, the capable older sister, clean up the mess. Think of a solution? Emily looked at her mother, her gaze cold as ice. What solution? Help her pay off her debts. She repeated the question slowly, word by word. Her voice wasn't loud, but it struck like a sharpened ice pick, stabbing straight into the hearts of both Linda and Sophia. Linda's face flushed, then paled. She forced herself to speak. You don't have to put it so harshly. She's your own sister. She's at a dead end right now. We're family. Can you really stand by and watch her die? Family? Emily echoed softly, the corner of her mouth lifting into a razor-sharp sneer. Mom, when you decided to hand over all of your retirement savings to Sophia so she could please her boyfriend, did you think about us being family? When Sophia planned that outrageously expensive New Year's Eve dinner for the sake of her vanity and quietly assumed I would pay for it, did she think about us being family? And now that she's caused a catastrophe and piled up mountains of debt, suddenly you remember we're family? Emily stepped forward, fixing Linda with a direct stare. The cold resolve in her eyes was something Linda had never seen before. I'll tell you my solution, Emily said clearly, her voice sharp and merciless, echoing through the small room. First, call the police. Let them go after the scammer named Michael. The chances of recovering the money are slim, but this is the proper legal process, and it has to be done. Second, Sophia. She turned to her sister, who was shrinking behind their mother, looking at her as if she were a complete stranger. You're 24 years old. You're a legal adult with full civil capacity. Every cent you borrowed is, by law, your responsibility to repay. Starting today, you find a job. Any job. Waitress, dishwasher, cleaner. As long as it's legal and earns money, you do it. Use your own hands to pay back every single cent you owe because of your greed and stupidity. As for Mom's retirement money, Emily's gaze returned to Linda. You gave it to her voluntarily? Legally. That's a gift. Now that the money is gone, that consequence is something you and only you have to bear. Emily, how can you say something so heartless? Linda trembled all over, her fingers shaking as she pointed at Emily. Make her work as a waitress? Wash dishes? She's never suffered like that in her life. How could her body handle it? Her body can't handle it. Emily laughed, the sound filled with bitter irony. So she's that fragile? Then why wasn't she fragile when she stayed out clubbing all night to buy designer bags? Why wasn't she fragile when she wore miniskirts in winter to go on dates with her so-called rich boyfriend? And when she took half a lifetime of your savings for her get-rich-without-working fantasy, why didn't she think then that her body was weak or that her brain wasn't exactly working? Her words were like poison blades, each one cutting deep, ripping away the last layer of hypocrisy from Linda and Sophia. Mom, ever since we were kids, you've always said she was weak and needed protection. Emily pointed to herself. Her eyes were slightly red, but her voice remained steady. What about me? When I had a 40-degree fever and went alone to the hospital to line up for IV drips, where were you? When I worked summer jobs hauling bricks at a construction site in 40-degree heat to earn my college tuition and collapsed from heat stroke, where were you? When I first started working, living on steamed buns and instant noodles to save money until I vomited blood from exhaustion, all you ever did was call and tell me to send Sophia money for a new phone. When did you ever worry about me? I'm not made of iron. I get tired. I get sick. I get cold-hearted too. Just because I can endure, because I can shoulder things, does that mean I deserve to be sacrificed and ignored? Just because Sophia cries, throws tantrums, and acts cute, does that mean no matter how big her mistakes are, She deserves forgiveness. And no matter how disastrous the mess, I'm supposed to clean it up? There is no such logic in this world. Nearly 30 years of suppressed resentment erupted like a volcano. Every sentence was soaked in blood and tears, crashing down on Linda and Sophia. Sophia was completely stunned, staring blankly at the sister who felt both familiar and utterly mushung, unable to say a single word. Linda's expression shifted from anger to shock, from shock to deathly pale, until finally it collapsed into deep shame and helplessness. Every word Emily had spoken was like a mirror, reflecting decades of her own blatant favoritism and selfishness. She opened her mouth but found nothing she could say in return, because everything Emily said was true. Emily took a deep breath and forced the turmoil inside her back down. She pulled out a pen and a sticky note, writing down the phone number of her friend Jennifer. "This is the number of a friend who works at the police station," she said, placing the note on the bedside table. "You decide for yourselves whether to report it. If you do, call this number and mention my name. She'll walk you through the process." "My position is very clear," Emily continued. "I won't pay a single cent of Sophia's debt. This mess, you clean it up yourselves." She didn't look again at the mother and daughter clinging to each other, faces drained of color. She turned decisively and pulled the door open. "Sis, don't go. Save me!" Sophia finally snapped out of it, letting out a shrill scream as she scrambled forward, trying to grab Emily's legs. Emily didn't turn back. She only tossed out one cold sentence. "You chose this road yourself. The moment you transferred Mom's retirement money, you should have known this day would come." With that, she strode out of the suffocating room, shutting Linda and Sophia's desperate cries firmly behind the door. Outside the hotel, the glaring sunlight poured down on her, yet Emily felt an icy chill sink into her bones. She lifted her head, stared at the vast blue sky, and forced the tears spinning in her eyes back down. She didn't go straight home. Instead, she found a bench in a nearby park and sat down. Taking out her phone, she saw a message from Jennifer. "How did it go? Did you find her? Is everything okay?" Emily replied, "Found her. She's fine physically. The money's gone, and she's buried in debt. I left your number with them. Might trouble you later." Jennifer replied quickly, "No big deal. But, are you really planning not to get involved at all?" Emily stared at the question for a long time. Then, word by word, she typed, "I can't manage it anymore. And I don't want to. Jennifer, I'm exhausted. I want to live for myself, for once." After sending the message, she turned off her phone and sat there quietly. Her mind was completely blank. She didn't want to think about anything. The intense confrontation had drained almost all her strength. She knew this was only the beginning, that the pulling, the entanglement, would likely go on endlessly. But she also knew more clearly than ever that this time, she could not afford to soften her heart again. Meanwhile, back in room 302 of the Ulai Inn, only Linda and Sophia remained. After the initial wave of despair and collapse passed, Linda looked at her shattered younger daughter, and the balance in her heart tilted once again, inevitably. This was the child she had doted on since infancy. How could she really stand by and watch her be driven to death by debt collectors? "Stop crying." What good does crying do? Linda wiped her tears and spoke with forced bravado. "There's always a way out. If your sister won't help us, we'll find a solution ourselves." But saying it was one thing. What solution could she possibly have? She had been an ordinary housewife her entire life. Limited experience, shallow connections. Her hand trembled as she picked up the slip of paper on the bedside table with Jennifer's phone number on it. It was the only lifeline they had left. After a painful internal struggle, Linda finally dialed the number. In an extremely humble, ingratiating tone, she explained everything to Jennifer. On the phone, Jennifer patiently guided her on how to prepare the materials and which police station to go to for filing a report. After hanging up, Linda felt as if all her strength had been drained. Reporting to the police was little more than a formality. Everyone knew that with cross-regional online fraud like this, the chances of recovering the money were slim to none. The real bomb was the tens of thousands in online loans Sophia owed. Just then, Sophia's phone suddenly began ringing frantically, the screen flashing an unfamiliar number. Sophia let out a shriek and threw the phone aside. Summoning her courage, Linda picked it up and pressed answer. "You're Sophia, right? When are you paying back the $50,000 you owe? If you don't deal with it today, I'll send your photos and IOUs to everyone in your contacts. I'll make you famous among your friends and relatives." A rough male voice came through the line, thick with menace. Linda's hand shook so badly the phone nearly slipped from her grasp. "What, you can't do this. We'll pay. We'll definitely pay." "Pay? With what?" "Cut the crap. If I don't see the money by 6 this evening, you better be ready for the consequences." The line went dead. Linda collapsed completely, the color draining from her face. Only then did she truly realize that Emily's cold-blooded words earlier had not been exaggeration. What Sophia had caused was a catastrophe that the two of them, mother and daughter, simply could not bear. Over the next few hours, debt collection calls and threatening messages poured in like a blizzard. Each one was like a heavy hammer slamming into Linda's heart. She finally understood that crying, begging, and throwing tantrums wouldn't solve anything. Panicked and at a loss, only one thought remained in her mind: find Emily. Only Emily had the ability to fix this. Linda dragged the dazed, hollow-eyed Sophia out of the inn and took a taxi straight to Emily's apartment. Emily had just gotten home, taken a hot shower, and changed into clean clothes. She was about to cook something for herself when the doorbell rang urgently. Through the video doorbell, she saw Linda standing outside, her face filled with panic and pleading, and Sophia trembling behind her. Emily's brow furrowed tightly. She had known it wouldn't end this easily. She didn't open the door. Instead, she pressed the intercom and asked coldly, "What is it?" "Emily, open the door!" "Mom is begging you," Linda pleaded through sobs. "The debt collectors are beating us to death. They said if we don't pay this afternoon, they'll spread Sophia's photos everywhere. If relatives and friends find out, how are we supposed to live? That's something you need to consider." "Not me." Emily's voice was devoid of warmth. "Sis, I'm begging you. Save me. I'll never dare to do this again. I'll work like a slave for you, I swear," Sophia cried desperately. Emily looked at the two tear-streaked faces on the screen, her heart utterly cold. The same old routine, always using family ties and face to blackmail her. "I already made my position very clear at the inn. I won't pay a single cent of her debt. Leave. And don't come back to disturb me again." With that, Emily cut off the call. Outside the door, Linda and Sophia were stunned. They never imagined Emily would be so ruthless as to not even let them inside. "Emily, open the door!" "You ungrateful wretch." Linda immediately switched tactics, wailing loudly. "Have you forgotten how your mother raised you, cleaning up after you when you were a baby? Have you forgotten who carried you to the hospital when you were sick as a child? Now that you've made it in life, you don't recognize us poor relatives anymore, is that it? Fine. I'll die right here at your doorstep and let everyone see what an unfilial daughter you really are." Seeing that begging had failed, Linda began crying and making a scene at the door, trying to force Emily into submission through public pressure. The soundproofing in the luxury apartment was excellent, but Linda's piercing wails still seeped faintly through the door. Emily stood in the middle of the living room, her fists clenched tightly. She knew exactly which incident her mother was referring to. When she was 5, she had suffered an acute bout of gastroenteritis in the middle of the night. Her father was away on a business trip, and it was her mother who had carried her on her back through the freezing wind for nearly half an hour to reach the hospital. Linda brought this up every single time Emily tried to resist, like a debt of gratitude that could never be repaid. But did one act of devotion justify decades of endless taking? Emily's heart was locked in a fierce struggle. Reason told her she absolutely could not open the door. Once she did, it would mean surrender, and everything she had drawn a line over would become a joke. Yet emotionally, listening to her mother's hoarse screaming and curses outside made her feel suffocated with pain. Just then, her phone rang. It was a call from property management. "Hello, is this Mrs. Emily in Unit 1808? Sorry to disturb you. There are 2 women causing a loud disturbance outside your door, and it's affecting other residents. Are they your visitors? Would you like us to send security up to handle it? Emily took a deep breath and made her decision. Yes. Sorry for the trouble. They are indeed family members, but we're having a dispute. Please send security to escort them away. If they refuse to leave, call the police directly. Her voice was so calm it carried no emotion at all. Yes. She could not soften her heart again. This time she had to sever this pathological symbiosis completely. Less than 5 minutes after she hung up, the crying and screaming outside abruptly stopped. It was replaced by the sound of Linda arguing with the security guards, but that too quickly died down. The world finally fell silent again. Emily leaned weakly against the wall and slowly slid down to the floor. She buried her face in her knees, her shoulders trembling slightly. No one knew how much pain she was in for making this cold-blooded decision. Escorted out of the building by security, Linda and Sophia stood at the entrance of the upscale residential complex like two stray dogs. Linda trembled with rage, pointing toward Emily's apartment as she cursed nonstop, but her voice was filled with helpless despair. Emily's decisiveness had exceeded her imagination. She had gone too far, leaving no dignity, no room for negotiation. Mom, what do we do now? Sophia clutched at Linda's sleeve, completely at a loss. Linda looked at her useless daughter, fury and resentment surging uncontrollably. If it weren't for her, how would she have ended up being shut out by her eldest daughter and thrown out like trash by security? But resentment aside, the problem still had to be solved. 6 p.m. was the debt collector's final deadline. Linda's mind raced. Emily was no longer an option, completely closed off. So who else could she turn to? Her gaze fell on several names in her contact list. Big brother, third aunt, younger uncle. Though she had already lost all face at the disastrous New Year's Eve dinner, at a moment like this, pride no longer mattered. She clenched her teeth and dialed third Aunt Patricia. Patricia clearly hadn't expected the call. Her tone carried awkward distance. Linda ignored it and tearfully exaggerated the story. Sophia being scammed, drowning in loan shark debt, and being thrown out by Emily. Third sis, you have to help me. If anything happens to Sophia, I won't live either. I know Emily can make money now, but she's completely heartless. You can't count on her at all. We truly don't have a single cent left. Could you lend me a few tens of thousands for now? Once we get the money back, or once Emily changes her mind, we'll pay you back immediately. There was a long silence on the other end before Patricia sighed. Linda, it's not that I don't want to help, but your family's situation, it's blown up too big. We've all seen how much Emily has given you over the years. If she's walked away now, she must have been hurt to the core. And a few tens of thousands isn't a small amount. We're tight ourselves lately. Linda refused to give up and called several more relatives in succession. The responses were almost identical. Some flat out said they had no money. Others dodged with excuses. A few even lectured her outright, saying she'd been biased her whole life and this was simply karma. The coldness of human relationships was laid bare in this moment. In the past, with Emily, the capable ATM, propping up the family, relatives had all been polite to Linda, praising her good fortune. Now that Emily, the strongest support, was gone, and the family was mired in scandal and debt, everyone wanted nothing to do with them. After hanging up the last call, Linda was utterly defeated. She sat on the edge of a flower bed in the complex, staring blankly ahead. She finally understood something. In this world, no one, except herself, would pay the price for the disaster Sophia had caused. Even those relatives who once flattered her would only protect themselves when real interests were at stake. Mom, Sophia called out timidly. Linda snapped her head around and glared at her with unprecedented venom and fury. It's all your fault. You brainless idiot. You've turned our family into a laughingstock. You've left me with nowhere to put my old face. Weren't you capable? Didn't you find a rich boyfriend? Where is he now? Where's the money? Linda screamed hysterically, unloading all her resentment and humiliation onto Sophia. Sophia shrank into herself, not daring to argue a single word, crying nonstop. When Linda finished screaming and crying, she felt completely drained. She stared at the busy street, her mind in chaos. She thought of the old apartment she'd lived in for decades, the only property she and her late husband had owned together. If she sold the apartment, would the money be enough? Once the thought surfaced, it spread wildly like vines in her mind. It was her last route, her only retreat. But now, to save Sophia, she seemed to have no other choice. Her heart felt as if it were being sliced apart. She pulled out her phone, fingers trembling, and searched online for selling a house and real estate agent. Just then, a black sedan pulled up in front of them. The window rolled down, revealing Big Brother Robert's stern face. "Why are you still sitting here, humiliating yourselves? Get in the car," Robert barked impatiently. It turned out that Aunt Patricia, unable to bear it after all, had called her eldest brother Robert. Though he was furious at this hopeless sister of his, he couldn't bring himself to watch her truly end up on the streets. Linda and Sophia clutched at the chance like drowning people grabbing a lifeline and scrambled into the car in a sorry state. Inside the car, Robert said nothing. His face was as dark as the bottom of a scorched pot, and the oppressive silence made it hard to breathe. The car didn't head back to Linda's place. Instead, it drove straight to Robert's house. In the living room, Aunt Patricia and Uncle David were already waiting. The three of them wore grim expressions, like judges presiding over a joint interrogation. "Talk," Robert said, taking the lead as the eldest sibling. His tone allowed no argument. "What exactly happened? How much do you owe? Which platforms?" Linda and Sophia didn't dare hide anything. Trembling, they explained the whole story from beginning to end, listing every debt in detail. 3 illegal online loan platforms, principal plus interest, more than 80,000 yuan in total. When they finished, the living room fell into a deathly silence. "Idiotic. Absolutely idiotic." Robert slammed the table, making Linda and Sophia flinch. "Sophia, you've studied for so many years. Did you study for nothing? You actually believed one of those money falling from the sky scams? And you, Linda," he turned on her next. "You're a mother. How can you be so brainless? Your daughter says something and you believe it, even throwing in your retirement savings. Look at the mess you've made. What are we even supposed to say to you?" Uncle David couldn't help chiming in. "Second sister, I've got to say this. You favored Sophia your whole life. Well, look at the result. The daughter you spoiled the most has dragged you straight into the gutter. And your eldest daughter, Emily, didn't I hear she won't even let you through the door now? This is all on you." Having her decades of favoritism exposed so bluntly, Linda's face flushed red and white in turns. She was overwhelmed with shame and fury, but couldn't utter a single word in defense. Aunt Patricia sighed and tried to smooth things over. All right. There's no point saying this now. The urgent thing is to fill this 80,000 yuan hole first. Those loan sharks don't chew bones. They swallow people whole. The longer this drags on, the higher the interest and the bigger the trouble." "Fill it? With what?" Robert snapped. "The 3 of our families could scrape together 80,000. It wouldn't be impossible. But why should we? If we pay this time, what about next time? When Sophia gets into trouble again, do you come knocking on our doors?" Those words sent Linda's heart plunging into ice. She had still been hoping her siblings would pull her up. Now she realized how delusional that hope had been. "Big Brother's right," Uncle David echoed. "We can't pay this money. It's a bottomless pit. The one who tied the knot has to untie it. This needs to go back to Emily. What's the point of finding her?" Linda cried in despair. "She hates us now." "Hate or not, you still go," Robert said decisively. "She's your daughter. Sophia is her biological sister. She can't really just stand by and watch her die. All of us elders will go together and talk to her properly." "I don't believe she can be that cold-blooded, refusing even to give her uncles and aunts a shred of face." In Robert's mind, Emily was just throwing a tantrum. Once the elders stepped in, appealing to emotion, reason, and applying a bit of pressure, she would definitely give in. After all, in a society that prized family ties and filial duty, no junior dared openly turn against all their elders. And so a so-called family pressure squad, made up of the eldest uncle, youngest uncle, and third aunt, was officially formed. They decided that early the next morning they would storm Emily's company together. They believed that in a workplace setting, Emily would care about her reputation and future and wouldn't dare make a scene. She would have no choice but to comply. Their sunpan clicked loudly in their minds. What none of them realized was how badly they were underestimating Emily's resolve this time. Nor did they understand that the person they were about to face was no longer a girl who cried and compromised, but a calm, rational woman who held all the evidence and whose heart had already gone completely cold. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Emily was in her office, leading an important project kickoff meeting with her team. She wore a perfectly tailored business suit, her hair neatly pinned back. She looked professional, sharp, and fully in control. The family chaos from the day before seemed to have left no trace on her at all. Halfway through the meeting, her assistant knocked and entered in a panic, leaning in to whisper, "Emily, several relatives from your family are here in the lobby. They say it's extremely urgent and insist on seeing you." The front desk can't stop them. They're very emotional. Emily's gaze instantly turned icy. She didn't need to guess who it was. Eldest uncle. Youngest uncle. Third aunt. They had actually tracked her down at work. Fine. She had originally intended to draw the line only with her mother and sister, letting responsibility fall where it belonged. But since these so-called elders insisted on inserting themselves and bringing the fire onto her territory, she wouldn't bother sparing their dignity. "Have them wait in the small conference room," Emily said calmly, "and go invite our legal counsel, Attorney Richard." The assistant froze for a moment, confused as to why a family meeting required a lawyer, but nodded quickly and went to carry it out. Emily turned to her team. "Let's pause the meeting for 30 minutes. Take a short break." She picked up her tablet and walked toward the small conference room. Her steps were steady and deliberate, the sharp clicks of her heels against the floor sounding like the prelude to war drums. When she pushed open the door, Robert, David, and Patricia sat upright, their faces stern with the authority of people convinced they were in charge. Seeing Emily enter, Robert cleared his throat and struck first. "Emily, you finally show up. We elders have been running around for your family's mess, and you hide comfortably at your company. Do you even have any respect for us?" Emily ignored the accusation. She walked straight to the head seat, placed her tablet on the table, and lifted her gaze, calmly sweeping over the three of them with a scrutinizing look. "What do the three of you want?" she asked coolly. "If this is about Sophia's debt, then I believe I've already made my position very clear." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable pressure. "What kind of position is that?" Uncle David slammed the table. "That's called abandoning your own family. Emily, don't forget you have Thompson blood in you. Sophia is your only sister. She's in trouble now, and as her sister, you're obligated to help her. That's only natural." Aunt Patricia chose to play the conciliator. In a heavy, earnest tone, she said, "Emily, I know your mother favored Sophia before, and that you suffered because of it. But blood is thicker than water. Now that the family is facing such a major crisis, can't you, for our sake, help the family get through this first? That $80,000 for you now, isn't it just pocket change?" Emily listened quietly to their performance, her face completely expressionless. Only after they had all finished did she slowly speak. "Are you done?" All three of them froze. Emily reached out and tapped her tablet lightly. The screen lit up, revealing a carefully prepared PowerPoint presentation. "Since the three of you went out of your way to come here today, and even tracked me down at my workplace, I think there are quite a few things between us that need to be clearly accounted for." She turned the tablet toward them. On the screen was a bold title, "Detailed Record of Financial Support Provided by Emily to Her Family Since 2015. Since everyone here enjoys talking about money and about what's only natural, let's speak with data." Her voice was exceptionally clear in the silent conference room. "July 2015, I graduated from college and joined my first company. My monthly take-home pay was $4,500. Starting August that year, I transferred $1,500 to my family every month for living expenses. This continued until December 2017, 29 months in total, for a total of $43,500. March 2016, Sophia was admitted to a private art college. When tuition funds were insufficient, I personally transferred $20,000 to cover the shortfall. January 2018, I joined my current company and received a raise. The monthly living allowance for my family increased from $1,500 to $3,000. As of last month, 48 months total, the amount comes to $144,000. September 2018, renovation of the family's old house. I paid for all interior construction and home appliances, totaling $87,000. From 2019 to present, payments for Sophia's credit card debt, phones, designer bags, cosmetics, and other non-essential expenses, with documented records, totaling $113,000. Expenses for my mother's health supplements, clothing, and travel amount to approximately $50,000. Each time Emily listed an item, her finger swiped across the screen. Clear bank transfer records, purchase receipts, even chat screenshots appeared one by one. Solid, undeniable evidence. The expressions on Robert, David, and Patricia's faces shifted from arrogance to shock to disbelief and finally to deep embarrassment and shame. They had never known that Emily had contributed so much to that family over the years. They had always assumed it was just a small monthly allowance. These figures only include expenses with clear documentation, Emily continued, lifting her gaze, eyes sharp as steel. They do not include scattered cash gifts, red envelopes, or physical items purchased. Over 7.5 years of work, the clearly documented amount I have contributed to this family totals $457,500. Nearly $460,000. She paused, letting the number sink in. May I ask the three of you, does this amount qualify as only natural? Does it count as lending a helping hand? Does what I've done count as blood being thicker than water? The conference room fell into dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. The faces of Robert, David, and Patricia had turned a dark purplish red. Fine beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. They were utterly stunned by the cold, precise numbers, unable to utter a single word. Just then there was a knock at the door. Attorney Richard walked in, wearing a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. He nodded politely to Emily. You asked for me, Emily. Emily stood and said calmly, Thank you for coming, Richard. These three are my elders. They came to the company today because of my sister's personal debt issues, to show their concern. She deliberately emphasized the word concern. Then she turned to the three relatives who were still staring in shock and smiled. Oh, I forgot to introduce you. This is our company's chief legal counsel, Attorney Richard. He has extensive experience handling financial disputes and family property disputes. From this point on, matters regarding Sophia's debts, as well as any potential damage to my personal reputation, will be handled entirely by my attorney, Richard. I still have a meeting to attend, so I won't be accompanying you. With that, Emily didn't spare them another glance. She turned and walked out of the conference room, leaving behind Robert, David, and Patricia, facing a lawyer with a professional smile and an overwhelming presence, staring at one another in utter shock. Only then did they truly realize what kind of solid steel wall they had just slammed into.